Hello, hello, my friends. It is Aldo, and welcome back to the Knights of the Nerd Republic. You know what to do, and stay profitable.
The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Hello there, High Ground. What about the droid attack on the Wookiees? General Kenobi, another fine addition to my collection. Something about murdering children being funny. This is Knights of the Nerd Republic, the show where your favorite nerds talk all things about the galaxy far, far away. For the last 5 years, I am your host, Jarod the Dark Jedi. I think I already said that. Oopsie. May the 4th be with you. This will be coming out on May the 4th. We are celebrating 20 years of Revenge of the Sith. Figured I'd let our May the 4th special this year be like how we saved our, we dropped it on the day of, because we did that Skywalker Saga thing. I fucked it up. Who cares? It's 20 years of Revenge of the Sith. May the 4th be with you. I am joined by the lore keeper, Conor Chikiti.
This is where the fun begins. I have to say it because it's the line, and he says the line. I'm going to kill myself.
That was the one I missed. This is a movie I have a lot of complicated feelings about, and we're going to get into that today. I'm going to save somebody for second to last. We're joined by our special guest, the proprietor of the Aura Mini Systems YouTube channel and the dungeon master for Ionized Bastards, a Star Wars RPG. We have the one and only Michael McCoy.
Hello. Very happy to be here.
The Modelo Lord himself. And
this is a Modelo.
I figured it would be. That's a nice Stein you have too.
Thank you. It's an old WWE one I got from like 2018 for a wrestler who's no longer in WWE. This says "Walk with Elias."
Nice. It makes it even more charming that it's for a performer who's no longer with the company.
But now he's in TNA.
There you go. Along with the doppelganger of our next person we have on the show, former friend of the show, now part of the show. He was riding shotgun with me during our Star Wars Celebration 2025 coverage. Welcome for his first episode of Knights of the Nerd Republic as an actual member of Team TDAP. It is Bill, the Thrill, Kentucky One Kenobi himself, Bill Sheehy.
I've been looking forward to this. Thank you so much. Everybody was doing a quote. I had to do one. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Should we redo my intro where I do a quote?
No.
We'll
do
it live. We're doing it live.
Okay. We will be joined by Kason here shortly. He's running a little behind. I had to get the Lady Fred's kiddo squared away and help her out with that. So he will be joining us soon. Before we jump into the show and before we even do anything to do with Sunday's Bloody Mary, most importantly, I am going to hand the reins over to Bill here for a moment because he has something very important he would like to plug, and I would like to give him the floor to do so.
Yeah, man. So you don't know who this guy is, but this is my best friend from high school, Parker Coon. Parker was like a brother to me in high school. He came around when I had friends, but like I didn't necessarily find a community of people. But me, him, my friend Gavin, and Austin were all really, really good friends. And I owe a lot to Parker. And Parker was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer in January. And over the course of the past 3 or 4 months, he, fought it, but unfortunately lost his battle with cancer about 2 weeks ago. And because of that, they have a GoFundMe for he and his family, his wife and his 18-month-old daughter, Charlotte. So if you if you feel that if you've got the if you have the means, please donate to Parker's family. They really, really need help. This will go to a lot of, dealing with the expenses with, when you pass away. It's, funeral costs and some of the, figuring out what's next, because this is a just devastating situation to be in. And Parker was one of the most wonderful people that I've known in my entire life. And he was a fundamental person that made me who I am. And a lot of the stuff that you see with me is because I was around Parker at a very, very pivotal time where he was just welcoming and loving. And I love him so much. And I hope I can never do it justice what he means to me and what he means to our friends. But if you feel like, once again, if you have the means, please donate to the Coon family. It would mean the world to me. And just
absolutely for Parker. Cheers for the man. And absolutely, please do that. The link to that GoFundMe is going to be at the very top of the description, both on YouTube and in the podcast feed if you're listening to this episode and not watching it on the YouTube channel. So that'll be in the description down below. Please, if you're able to, please donate. I think Kason said very eloquently on the post you made on Facebook, Bill, about Parker's passing. Just that profound, potent, just love that was just coursing through everything that you and anybody else who he had touched, speaking on him and the effect he had on their lives. It's pretty ubiquitous that this is a good man, and any friend of Bill Sheehy is going to be a friend of mine. And I'm sorry for your loss. I'm sorry for the family. And like I said, please, anybody watching, please, show the Coon family some love. Show them some well needed support.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and absolutely. I put myself in a precarious situation here, because I said I want to give Bill higher billing here. For the more important thing.
I was gonna ask how you were gonna handle this shift in tone.
And now I have to show for Bloody Mary mix, and I am not as a good enough broadcaster to know how to do that pivot. So I'm just going to call attention to the fact that this is inelegant, and apologize to Bill for the fact that I thought giving him higher billing would be the more gracious thing to do. And now I'm realizing this is not elegant.
Well, it's not elegant, but you know what is elegant?
What is elegant, Bill?
It's Sunday Bloody. It's the Sunday's Bloody Mary mix. I need to get that. As someone who's going to be on the show, I should probably figure that out.
It should have been in your orientation packet, Bill.
It was not.
I messed that up. I should have added that in there. That's my bad.
That's
Bill.
fine. Don't worry. We're learning.
I love Conor on the spot saying that was actually my response.
Yeah.
People go, "What's Conor's job at the Nerd Academy?" He's our onboarder, actually.
I messed up the orientation.
Conor,
I messed up the.
It's okay. No.
Conor Chikini, head of human resources at the Nerd Academy.
Yeah.
Jarod, you obviously know more than we do. So tell us about Sunday's Bloody Mary.
Sunday's Bloody Mary is the most badass Bloody Mary mix in the galaxy, with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice ain't for you. If you would like to step up your Bloody Mary game and have the only Bloody Mary mix that can surpass a from-scratch Bloody Mary, use the link in the description down below to get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. And I am not spending any more time on that ad.
I'm sure the sponsors love hearing that.
Yeah. I think Annie and Colin understand. Lovely human beings, fellow Pennsylvanians. But like I said, Case will be here soon. 20 Years of Revenge of the Sith. This is a movie I famously have really mixed feelings about. This is a movie I loved as a kid, obviously. This was a movie that I, in my very, very brief prequel hater phase, always put under Phantom Menace, but still loved. But as time went on, it became this weird, almost like cultural signifier in the fandom, and this weird cudgel that was hefted. And
I wonder why.
And as time went on, it's a movie that I really started to sour on. I said a couple months ago where I was like, 2025 is going to be a weird year for me as a Star Wars fan, because it is going to be spent mostly celebrating the two Star Wars projects I have the most fraught relationship with, in Revenge of the Sith and Andor. And we're here. And I have all of those same complicated feelings kind of magnified. But I can say, having seen the movie twice in a theater this past weekend, this is the first time I've watched this movie and thoroughly enjoyed it beginning to end without thinking about everything that annoys me the whole time. And that really lifted my it's weird to say Revenge of the Sith lifted my spirits, but like it lifted my spirits in like a fandom way, where I was like, oh, for the first time I can put why this movie is so, I'm so weird with it off to the side. And we'll get into all the nitty gritty and themes and how we're feeling 20 years later. Michael,
that kind of sounds like,
what were you saying?
Sorry, no, it just because you just reminded me of a conversation I was having recently. That kind of sounds like me with Empire Strikes Back in a way, in the sense of I always hear still today, I think we all do, about how like Empire is the best Star Wars. It's the greatest Star Wars story.
It's my least favorite Star Wars movie.
And for me, at least, that's wild, Bill.
I'm telling like it is.
That is why. Anyway.
I don't agree, but I deeply respect it. I think it's the one for me that fluctuates the most.
That's ballsy. Anyway.
It's the most consistent for me because it's been at the bottom. But anyway.
No. So like basically my point is that I'm kind of like that, where it's like, I don't get why this movie's so loved. I just, I don't understand it. I start to overrate it in my head. And for me, at least, every time I rewatch it, I'm like, nope, I get it. I'm the fucking Danny DeVito meme. I get it now.
See, I don't rank Empire nearly as low as Bill does. And I don't even have that weird relationship I do with Sith and Andor that I do with Empire. For me, it's that like, oh yeah, I'll watch Empire Strikes Back. I like this. I love this one. This is one of the GOATs for a reason. It's held as one of the greatest movies of all time. But also, I will say
that most of my solid relationships with the first 6 Star Wars movies have to do with the fact that I played Lego Star Wars, the complete saga. Like,
yeah, you
shit did. Growing up.
Yeah, you did.
But like with Empire, every time I sit down, I'm like, oh yeah, this movie's great. And I'm like, by the end of it, I'm like, man, this movie fucks. And I like immediately understand why it's at the top of everybody's list. For me, it can't touch Return to the Jedi. I'm sorry. In terms of the OT, I'm a Return to the Jedi guy. I know Michael's a New Hope guy.
Yeah.
But Michael, as our guest, I want to throw to you, especially because we haven't had you on the show in fucking forever. I would throw to you how relationship we were in with Revenge of the Sith, then, now, and coming out of the theater, seeing it theatrically, maybe for the first time ever?
So I did see it when it came out. It was the first and only Star Wars movies I saw theatrically pre-TFA.
Okay.
Because I didn't even catch Clone Wars in theaters.
What? I'm just kidding. I'm just
shocking. But no, like I remember specifically my dad took me to see Revenge of the Sith just like 2 or 3 years before he passed away. And so that has also been kind of like a core memory for me. And so that was very, very kind of special being able to see this in theaters again. Now, in terms of where it lands in my rankings now versus how it has been over the years, When I was growing up, Revenge of the Sith was my favorite movie of all time. I watched the shit out of Revenge of the Sith. I fucking loved it. I can't tell you how many times I popped that DVD into my PS2 to play this fucker. Like, absolutely loved it. Know so much of the movie by heart.
So much.
Mm-hmm.
You popped it into your PS2.
Mm-hmm.
And unlike Scotty Jarod, I know how to figure out the parental controls on my PS2, so I can play the Revenge of the Sith DVD. But no, over the years, I've grown less fond of it, partially for similar reasons to you, Jarod, because of how worse sections of the fandom have taken it and put it on such a pedestal, partially because of the way people are like memes equals good, so therefore because he say hello their best movie, I have a very complicated relationship with it where it's near the bottom. It's not, for me, it lands about like 8th on my list in terms of favorite Star Wars movies. I got my kind of letterbox ranking.
Yeah, let me pull up my letterbox so I can
That's
be more
really
precise
funny,
here.
Michael, because I just did a reconfiguration, and it is also 8th.
Yeah, so for me, it's right between Empire and Clones.
For me, it's right between, and Jarod, you're gonna kill me for this. It's right between, and these are like 2, and it's like barely almost. When I say right between these 2 movies, it's right between Phantom Menace and Return of the Jedi. But like then again, any of those 3 movies, for me at least, I feel like could just flip flop on any.
Yeah.
So
that's how I am past my top 4 as well.
Yeah, my top 4 is not going to change.
Pretty sure. We're divulging a bit into Star Wars rankings.
We're Anyway, Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, I do overall enjoy it. I think it's a very fun watch, both in terms of pace, like it's very action oriented, which I think is why it kind of garnered the reputation it had, because it was a bit more faster and more intense, as we like to meme about, than Clones or Phantom Menace. But I don't know. I think this viewing, as we sort of discussed in private, is one of the best viewings I've had in a long time, especially in the modern day, in the rise of a fascist regime, that we are, that it is a movie that is so deeply about the rise of fascism. Like, it really stood out to me. You think about the relationship between Revenge of the Sith and the rise of fascism, and typically the only thing that comes to mind is this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause. But no, it is so deeply entrenched into everything in this movie. But yeah, I really enjoyed it this go around, and I wasn't able to fully separate it from the kind of like shitty portions of the fandom like you were, Jarod. A lot of that did still kind of register in my brain as I was watching it, partially because there was someone in front of me anytime a quotable moment happened who directly quoted it as it was happening.
Yeah, okay. I'm so glad you said that, because I had the exact same fucking experience at my showing.
Bill, were you right next to me? Were you in my theater?
No, no, it wasn't me. Because like I'm someone who's always like
grown ass adult in a movie.
Yeah, no. I like to think that, but like I'm someone who like whenever there's a Star Wars movie that comes back in theaters, I'm there. Especially like this one was different because I had seen this one in theaters before, and I had seen it was the same theater that I saw it in 20 years ago with my mom, my friend Hannah, and Josh. We went right after school on the last day of school, and like I just remember that. So that's such a like you said, like a core memory where I just remembered like, hey, I don't have to go to school anymore, and I get to go see Star Wars. This is fucking great. But there's a couple things that for me that kind of happen. I'm okay with like when these are re-released. Like I remember when I walked in, like there was this guy who was dressed up as Anakin, and like we were making conversation, and like it was like, hey, when he says liar, we're all gonna shout liar. And I'm like, okay, you know what? That's okay. That's fun. I like having fun at the movies. this is okay. But the minute I thought that was the only thing they were going to quote, but they started quoting everything to the point where I'm like, it wasn't like to the point where I was going to like tell them to like shut the fuck up, but like shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Like it just, and I don't know if that like took away from my enjoyment of the movie, because like while I did enjoy it, like in this Revenge of the Sith was probably my favorite growing up. I think this viewing, like, it kind of was, I saw the cracks more than I ever had before, and maybe I was just mad at this dude who was sitting next to me quoting it every 10 minutes, but like I don't know, it just the quotes that I wanted to feel didn't quite hit the one way that I wanted to. The moments that I knew that I was going to love, I still loved, but like it was kind of like, you know, when you're watching Rogue One and you just kind of wait for Darth Vader to show up at the end. Like I was kind of like, I just want to see the big fight, and I want to see the last 20 minutes of this movie, even though I like the other stuff in it. But like, I like the things that really hit this time were the fight with the fights with Obi-Wan and Anakin and Yoda and Darth Sidious, and then like the birth of the twins and like the twin sunsets, like twin sunsets. But like everything else, it kind of was like, oh well, this doesn't hit the same way that it did for me 20 years ago. But maybe I just need to go see it again, because like this was truly like the first time I've watched the movie where I've been like, I don't know about this. So
one other thing I would like to add on the subject of people talking during the movie is I don't know what was worse, the people quoting it in the movie next to me or the people just slightly down the row from me. Who there was one guy, these were all adults, and anytime like a character would show up, he'd be like, that's Count Dooku.
Yeah, okay, we know that.
Yeah.
That sounds
especially
like
because Palpatine just said Count Dooku.
That sounds like a bit you would do, Michael, but it just in a virtual hangout session.
Yes. Well, if I may, I want to piggyback off of something Michael said and then something Bill said. With Michael, when you were talking about that, you know, like how liberty dies with thunderous applause, and how like, you know, both times Donald Trump has been elected president inexplicably, you know, everybody, you know, first time everybody posted that quote, right? Everybody posted the GIF of Padme in the Senate chambers, and then the second time around, you know, in the group chat we're all in, I got really fucking snarky. And was like, oh, can't wait for everybody to post their Padme quote and, you know, go back to their resistance hats and you know, doing this in the most like, trying to push back against the Trump regime in the most placid way possible. And I stand by that. You know, I think there was still a little bit of like resistance lib to that kind of had me burnt out a little bit. But if there was one thing that really stuck out to me this time, stuck out to me, was Anakin's fall. And it was, and we'll talk about this more because I really want to get into the like Anakin's possessiveness as a thing later on, kind of talking about character beats that, you know, resonate with us always, but like we felt more now. Something that I never really like went, about until now was, oh geez, Kason's here. I truly hope I wasn't leaving you waiting for a while.
I literally just popped in.
Okay, I didn't hear the boop in StreamYard. I went, oh fuck.
No, you're good.
Once the thing got bigger. But no,
What's
I had
the
a
what
moment.
got bigger?
What, who's bigger? What are you? Well, hold on.
What?
Wait, measuring contest right now?
Okay.
I love that it's no hesitation from Bill.
Yeah.
There it is.
Anyway,
Hell yeah.
Go get one. Anyway, oh no.
Oh no.
That's the one bad thing about that lightsaber is because of the hand guard, it will twist itself back on when you try to move it. Anyway, but it's Anakin's fault, and it's specifically after Anakin helps Sidious kill Windu. And Sidious, henceforth you shall be known.
In also the coolest Sidious voice that has ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I have a little headcanon theory about that, actually, and we'll talk about that later. But here, I had a moment where, Anakin at this point in the narrative has made a profoundly selfish decision that he was knowingly going to let Mace Windu be killed in the name of saving the Sith Lord. And knows full well that this same Sith Lord has been lying to the galaxy at large, basically Palpatine's entire life, and to Anakin for the last 13 years, and to the galaxy for the last 13 years, about who he is, what he's doing, and what his motivations are. And Sidious, to Anakin's face, has multiple times kind of sold him an inconsistent story as to what he's actually doing. It has been, use my knowledge, I beg you, listen to me, let me help you. And then, but also, you're the head of the Separatist Alliance, and the Separatist Alliance exists because the Republic's so corrupt, but you're the Chancellor. So how does that add up? And now we're talking about the Jedi are trying to destroy the Senate?
Every single Jedi, literally, I'm the only one who doesn't know.
I'm the only one who doesn't know, or at the very least, I'm the only one who won't go along with it. And you're like, oh, we have a plan for the Jedi spread across the galaxy. So your end game was clearly always to wipe out the Order. And it's all of these things that logically cannot coexist with each other. That even after Palpatine lets Anakin in on the biggest secret of all, he's still clearly lying and bullshitting him. And when Darth Sidious looks at him and goes, their next step will be to destroy every single senator. Anakin, without a moment's hesitation, goes, I agree. And then again, Thursday night, this past Thursday night was the first time I saw it. And then I saw it again this past Sunday with my dad and my little sister. And I was gobsmacked by that moment in a way I never had been before. Where it was almost this moment of them agreeing on a story. And Anakin knows he's being bullshit. Anakin knows you just want me to kill all the Jedi. And Sidious even says, go there and only through, all your anger and hatred that you will have to tap into to commit this atrocity I'm about to send you into the field to commit, will you be able to tap into the dark side enough to do the one thing we all know you're here to do? But let's make it sound more noble. Let's put a whole lot of lipstick on this fucking pig. We're trying to save democracy.
See, I had a slightly different interpretation of that moment. It also stood out to me. And it has stood out to me before, but this viewing especially it did. I've always viewed it as Anakin was so he has the whole "what have I done" moment, that he is so fundamentally shaken by what he has done, that he is so at a loss that he's basically just latching on to whatever Sidious says next.
Oh, I think that's 100% a part of it. I think that's 100% a part.
But I don't think it's a conscientious, I know you're bullshitting me, but I'm going to go along with this so that I feel confident. I think it's just that, yeah, of course their next move would be against the Senate. Sure, yeah.
I think that is what I'm getting at. Is that, it is that there is an ipso facto justification to it factor. But again, and I think it speaks to I've said this before, after I do all the other video essays I want to do, one of the other ones I want to do is about the theme of radicalization in Star Wars. And this is and it's pitch perfect here. It is very real. And it's just that moment where he just immediately agrees. And the events of the last 13 years of his life go out the fucking window along with Mace. And and Bill, what you were saying with the people quoting it, actually, I'm going to save that thought for later. Because there's a specific thing about the relationship we all have with this movie that I do want to tackle here in a minute. Kason, you did not get a chance to see it in the theater. You just watched it at my house with me when we realized that the showing was going to be too late.
Yes.
So we were talking, our relationship with this movie, in the past before seeing it again, and kind of like celebrating this moment it's having. And kind of like what's your relationship with Revenge of the Sith been? How does it make you feel? Michael, Bill, and I so far have kind of been talking about the whole, it has this weird place in the fandom now. Is this, it's, look at how awesome this movie is compared to the shit that sucks, and how that was an issue for Michael and I to really kind of tackle. How are you feeling about Revenge of the Sith?
I've always loved the movie, obviously, as I'm sure all of us have. Obviously, I didn't get to see it again in theaters yet. I'm gonna try to before it leaves. So I feel like I'll notice more if I do get to see it on an actual like bigger screen. But also, I have a projector in my room with like a big ass speaker, so I can also just do that and get almost the same thing. But as far as like my relationship with the movie, I've always loved Revenge of the Sith. It was like one of the first movies that I got like excited about when I knew it was coming out, because it was like right in that sweet spot. I was 7 years old when it came out. I had been watching the original trilogy on like Spike on Sundays. And then like seeing like Attack of the Clones.
What a throwback.
Yeah, dude. That's the first time I ever watched the Star Wars movies.
And it was followed by Mansers.
Yeah.
Oh my
Mansers.
God. Like,
Bill gets it.
I get it.
I personally was the deadliest warrior.
Mansers in 1,000 Ways to Die. 1,000 Ways to Die was great.
I was a Deadliest Warrior head as a surprise to absolutely nobody.
Deadliest Warrior was a banger too.
Shit. Anyway, continue, Kason.
Yeah, no, you're all good. Watched The Phantom Menace in the back of my grandpa's RV. First time, I'm pretty sure.
The way George Lucas intended.
Exactly. Just the way George Lucas intended. And then like I think Attack of the Clones was airing on TV by the time Revenge of the Sith came out too. But yeah, so like I had seen all of them leading up to it and everything, and like I got to finally like see the thing. I'm sure it's same for everybody when you get to like actually see Anakin turn into Darth Vader. It's like exciting because the movie's great and you know what's coming, so you're excited for it. But like it's also still heartbreaking every time. Like the memes that I constantly get in my Instagram feed are always like me watching Revenge of the Sith for the 376th time, hoping that maybe Anakin doesn't turn to the dark side this time. Like,
oh my God, I'm gonna get it.
Yeah, I feel that.
I would love it.
Conor and I both have discussed that recently.
Yeah.
Like straight up, like I'm just gonna straight up say it. Like like going into my viewing of Revenge of the Sith, because I've seen it in theaters before this. I was 8 years old. I don't really remember much.
Right.
But
Conor,
going into this viewing of it,
who else first Star Wars movie in the theater was this? Quick show of hands. Because I know I saw Attack of the Clones, but I was like 3, so like or 4 maybe. So I know that was kind of not really something I remembered doing, but I know I saw it. I was just curious. Anyway, as you were saying, Conor.
But yeah, like I just felt super like an Instagram TikTok girly in the sense of, oh, maybe if I see it this time, he won't turn.
Right.
And yeah, I was heartbroken again.
Every time.
So
see,
as I get older, I noticed the like the actual like drama and everything of it more and more. Like I've always known like, oh, Anakin loves Padme and that's how he ends up falling to the dark side. But like when you actually like get into it more and like you understand how relationships work and all that stuff and how feelings work, and you're like, oh,
to have
I would do that.
Okay, so let's break this down for a second. You are a Jedi who cannot be in a relationship.
Right.
The first thing you do when you come back from a mission is very openly, in a very political setting, is make out with the hot senator that is also your wife.
Right.
It's not a secret anymore. I'm sorry.
And go spend the night at
100%.
her apartment
Yeah.
with a giant open window for anyone to see.
Yeah, that
Can
would
I-
be. There's
can I
a
interrupt
well-known
for a
secret
moment?
about Lindsey Graham. That
I can interrupt for a moment. I think, and I have such a, like I said, I have such a fraught relationship with prequel memes, and we'll get into it. This is going to be my like open therapy session about this movie today. One of the funniest Star Wars memes I have seen in a very, very, very long fucking time has been recently, where it's like like Anakin talking. The scene is Anakin talking to Padme, like after he has his first like night terror about her dying in childbirth. But it's kind of like split up into quadrants, like the "you're joking, right?" meme from Attack of the Clones.
Mhm.
But it's Padme going, "Annie, what's wrong?" And it's Anakin staring like into the middle distance, going, "I have a whole ass room at the Jedi Temple, and I live here, and nobody's asked me about it."
good point. It's a really good point.
Yeah.
That is
It is
something
one of
that
the-
I have wondered about since I was a kid. Is I was like, where does Anakin live? And who
That is
asks
a
questions
valid
about
point
it?
that I've
Yeah.
never
Also,
thought about.
like
I have
He's
a
got a
whole ass
room.
room at the temple, and nobody has noticed that I live here.
Mhm.
And that is one of the few times in recent memory where a Star Wars meme derived from the prequels made me belly laugh.
Mhm.
That you brought it up. I had to share that.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, and like I said, Kason, you're touching on something that's probably going to be the next topic here with Anakin's fall and like his relationship with Padme, which I do really want to get into because it's something that like it was another thing that it's like I intellectually understood, but like there was something about seeing it on the big screen that like had a different effect on me. But yeah, Connor, relationship to the movie, and now you're obviously already saying you had the first. Maybe this time he won't lop off Mace Windu's hand.
Yep. I was very much a girly in that sense. But
Connor's one of the girlies. We all know this.
Like girly pop.
when
I think we're all
s-
one of the girlies, quite frankly.
I think
I
you're
think so
right. I
too.
would
Can agree with
listen. We need to hold on. I'm going to get an expert to weigh in on this.
Is
Stand
the
by.
expert perhaps named Miss Taylor?
The expert is Miss
Miss
Taylor.
Taylor.
Miss Taylor.
Hey, you're on speakerphone. Can you come here for a second?
She's very excited to see us.
She's in the middle of a Baldur's Gate session, so I'm already playing with fire.
No, I
bothering
need
her.
to play that. But
You
there's too
really
many
do.
games.
Get
I
it?
have
We'll
to
play it together.
I
Yeah.
have it. There's too many other games because I have a PS3 again.
Oh.
Okay. Miss Taylor has arrived. You are on air.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This is very important, Miss Taylor.
This is very important.
Miss Taylor.
Oh, you can see everybody who's on the episode. Are we honorary girlies? Are we the girlies?
Oh no.
Okay, so Bill, yes.
I'm currently taking out my earrings. I feel like that should count for something.
Kason said, "I'm currently taking out my earrings. I should count for something."
Oh, I already said yes. I didn't even hear him. Michael, yes.
Oh no.
Conor
I bet.
and You can ask Mary.
I
Damn.
respect it.
My friend,
that feels
Mary, Mary publicly said that I was not girly pop enough to understand Taylor's affection for "We Cry Together" by Kendrick Lamar.
You're not.
Wait,
I
I'm
know.
not one of the girlies. What the fuck? Whatever.
Anyway,
It's
You'll
okay.
get there, honey.
You.
all right. Well, we have our answer
You
from Miss
guys
Taylor.
can go be not girly together. Me and the girlies. We'll go hang. Thank you. Yes, that's yes. That's why.
Okay, fair
All right,
enough.
there we go.
You got your
Um,
answer.
We love
Bye,
Miss
Miss
Taylor.
Taylor.
Anyway,
Everybody say goodbye, they love you.
so
Bye, girly pops. Bye.
Slay Queen. Yes.
As you were saying, Connor.
so with Revenge of the Sith, I saw it at 8 years old. The only thing I really remember, I remember two things. One, I cried my ass out at Order 66. And then two, not related to the movie, but related to Star Wars. We went to Burger King after it, and I got one of those
Hell yeah.
wind up.
Hell
X-Wing.
yeah. Hell yeah. There's the X-Wing. Fuck yeah, dude. Anybody remember the weird Star Wars watches that came out at that time? Everybody talks about the toys, but not the watches.
I do not remember the watches.
I had almost all the watches. I wore them all the time.
But
Quick
Would you
question.
still wear one?
No. What? Yes, Case?
I think that unlocked a memory. Was the X-Wing, did it have somebody in the pilot suit that had a massive head in it?
No, I don't.
All the
I don't
toys-
remember.
All the toys
Burger King ones
had
had
massive
massive
heads.
heads.
Okay.
They had the people toys had Funko Pop proportions.
I was gonna say it was very Funko coded.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't remember
Okay.
that, but I just remember you would just wind it up and they would just shoot forward. So, but with Revenge of the Sith, so I was never in a prequel hater phase per se. It was more so after I watched that movie, and then after I watched the Clone Wars film in theaters, and then watched the Clone Wars as it came out on TV. I had a lot of friends who were prequel haters. And so I heard all this hate pretty much every day from people. And I guess I just brushed it off and just didn't give a shit because I was never I was never someone who was like, oh yeah, I really hate these movies and I can understand why others hate them. I was just kind of like, whatever. And so I never really hated the prequels. And then I remember rewatching them probably around the time of I think around the time of Rogue One, I want to say. And I remember rewatching them and I was like, these are actually pretty fucking solid. I'm not going to lie. And then that's where it kind of restarted my sort of love for the prequel trilogy. But with Revenge of the Sith in particular, I think I always liked it. And I think I've touched on this before in previous K&R episodes. The reason I think I like it a lot is not because of the movie itself, but it has to do with the fact that the marketing for it, especially the merchandising and the toy lines, were in fucking insane from what I remember.
Yeah.
That shit, the shit that came
Especially
out.
at Tactics.
Yes. Oh my God, dude. The Tactics. Dude, I remember I went to a Toys R Us and bought a pretty decently sized Anakin Jedi Starfighter model with an Anakin figure in it where you can put him in the pilot seat and fly him around and shit. I was hyped, dude. And I think the other thing I really like about Revenge of the Sith is that, for me at least, there's just something about the aesthetic of it in the early 2000s where I've talked about this with Jarod before. I think actually today I texted to him about this where there's something about Revenge of the Sith with its sort of gritty, fiery aesthetic that we get a couple years later with other stories and other, media, most notably Force Unleashed. He's told me to read the book. I will read the book at some point, but I haven't gotten the game yet. I have ordered it, but there's just something about Force Unleashed with its sort of gritty aesthetic that sort of just blends in with the vibe of Revenge of the Sith super well for me. That along with other post Revenge of the Sith stories, just really captivates me so much. I guess more so with the era around Revenge of the Sith than with Revenge of the Sith itself as the movie.
It was a lot of the ancillary stuff. And I totally hear that because I just the vibe of Star Wars was so wild, especially as a kid. I was not allowed to play M-rated games until I turned 13 or 14.
Same.
So Halo was off limits and Republic Commando seemed too similar to Halo. So I was allowed to play Republic Commando. So I remember aesthetically stuff like Republic Commando and the Revenge of the Sith game. I was allowed to play. Republic Commando was the only outlier. But Battlefront 2, Revenge of the Sith, the cover for Labyrinth of Evil and Dark Lord. Dark Lord: The Rise of Darth Vader, which I think is one of the most underrated Legends novels of all time. You know, you're 100% right. And you know, I do think The Force Unleashed was kind of like the last gasp of that, like, Star Wars feels kind of grim and scary for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was still blanketed in that, like, let's go, everybody, get your Count Dooku action figure with summary execution action.
Real quick, just before we move on too much from merchandising, Connor, you triggered a memory for me where you were talking about a Jedi Starfighter toy, and I remembered that I at one point received, I think it was for my birthday or some shit,
I hope you say what you're about to say.
a Jedi Starfighter Transformer.
Oh yes, Star Wars Transformers was having its moment too. Let me
Look
flip it
at
you.
this fucking shit.
Dude, I
Is that the Kenobi
forgot
one?
about
Yes.
Star Wars. Wow. I never bought one of those, Michael, but I remember seeing those in the aisles. I forgot about
Madness.
those, man.
What were we
I-
doing in the year of our Lord 2000?
Nobody knows. It's the same thing with the Count Dooku giving head action.
Dude, it's Mecha Luke. That's
It's
Mecha
Mecha
Luke
Luke.
right
It literally
there.
is.
Yeah,
Mecha
dude.
Luke.
But
So,
with my
oh,
theater
okay, I found it.
experience, thankfully, really cool. There was one guy that was like kind of hooping and hollering before the movie, and I was
Made me
very,
hungry.
very trained to be like, all right, if this guy doesn't shut the fuck up, there might be some issues. But thankfully, he was my
Philly
theater.
sports fan. That
was-
checks out.
Yep, my theater was thankfully just very quiet. No one was doing the dumb quote stuff. No one was doing anything. Very quiet. I was very happy. So I am going to see it again probably sometime in the next day or two. So
Hell yeah.
Wonderful. I love all of that, Connor. On the topic of toys, real quick.
We're never going to
Same.
actually talk about
Yeah.
the movie.
We
We're
are.
just-
No, because this was like a core thing for me. So, this is what I thought you were going to bring up, Michael. And I sent a message about this in our group chat like a couple weeks ago. The fucking Darth Vader Eda class starfighter is one of my all-time favorite things to ever fucking exist.
oh my
And
god,
I forgot that they did a goddamn transformer of it too.
I think I
That's
remember
cool.
this,
Because I had the transformer and like the full-size starfighter toy.
dude. I
And
might
that
get
is one of
that.
my favorites of that little like transitional period between the Empire and the Republic.
Wait, did
where
that
they
say
didn't have
did that say that was $120 on eBay?
129 and it's sold.
Damn.
I know.
Right.
Me too.
I'll try to find it.
Oh yeah, I was like, I'll get a normal fucking Eda class toy and have somebody do a paint job on it.
Yeah.
But no,
just
on the
gonna
topic
find
of toys,
I'm
that
too
reminded me
lazy,
of that. But
so.
For me personally, real quick, you know, my relationship with the movie is what it is. I did see this movie when it first came out. I remember vividly like the PG-13 rating and there just being buzz of like, hey parents, I know Star Wars is back and this is the big last one. Be warned. This goes to some fucking places. And my uncle my uncle saw it at like the midnight premiere that week. And I don't remember if my dad saw it before me or if he saw it for the first time with me, but my uncle gave my mom and my dad the rundown. Because it was that like, hey, we're hearing talk that this movie might be too much for kids. And I remember we were going to see it that Sunday. And before we left, my uncle and my dad sat me down and they were like, listen, this movie gets really intense. There's some really scary and unsettling stuff in it. If you want to wait until it's out on DVD, we can do that. And I was like, no, this is the last Star Wars movie. This is my last chance to see Star Wars in a theater. I need to go see it. I was like, if I'm scared, I'll be brave. I'll be fine. And I vividly remember every time something disturbing happened. The first one being Dooku's execution. And like even again, they cut away, but it's still graphic.
Mhm.
You know,
see
it's
the
still
head
really-
You see the head roll. Yeah, there you
yeah,
go.
you see the head bounce and everything. And I remember my dad and my uncle being like, "You okay?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm all right. That was crazy. I'm good." And then obviously Order 66 and Source Bandim and the Younglings. You okay? And I was like, holy shit, I'm okay. Again, it was that moment of like, that's crazy, but I'm fine. And then obviously Anakin burning alive was like the last, you doing all right? And I was like, we're at the end here. So I hope I'm okay. But no, I just vividly remember that, like it being such a thing where I was like, this is it. Like, this is it. And I remember the Clone Wars movie came out and I was like, oh, like, this doesn't count, but, it's a bonus. 3 years later, it's a bonus to get to see this one.
Little did we know the impact it would have on us.
Yeah. And, how far out we are with now. We're a year away from getting to do the act of seeing Star Wars in a theater again.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that said, kind of getting everybody, kind of like taking everybody's Revenge of the Sith temperature. And I'll introduce this, and anybody who has thoughts, jump in as you please. Anakin in this film, everybody knows I'm the Darth Vader fanboy. It's the joke. I'm the ultimate Vader glazer, and I've earned that title very well. It was hard earned. Being the only person who glazes Darth Vader more than Star Wars Theory. Difference between us is I can read, but
and have empathy.
Yeah, that too. But
Wow.
Shocker.
I had a moment where, like, because again, I know this intellectually. I know because I've heard George Lucas talk about it. I know because it's been 20 years. Anakin's biggest downfall here is his possessiveness of Padme. Like we can all, every single one of us here, relate to the idea of if I was put in a rock in a hard place and it was somebody I love more than life itself and horrendous, unforgivable acts, and their life hangs in the balance, what would I do? And it's an impossible question to ask. But it also comes with that possessive love. Again, we've heard George talk about it. It's one of those things where, like, when people love to do the whole, like it's the Jedi Council and Mace Windu and Yoda to blame for Anakin's turn to the dark side, where it's like where I always get frustrated. It's like, no, this whole thing of like one moment, brief moment, Eli, screen record it. I know you're watching, where I'm going to defend Yoda. I resent the shit out of the people who do the whole Anakin went to Yoda for help and all he got was a lecture. First of all, Anakin was very not forthcoming at all with any details of what was going on.
Yeah.
All Yoda had to go off of was, you think you're having visions about somebody you care about dying, and I'm going to remind you of how the Jedi philosophically view death. And because I have nothing else to go off of, this is all I can give you. Because you did the, Jedi version of going up to somebody, and when someone says, hey, how are you doing? And you go, I'm doing really badly. What's wrong? I don't want to talk about it. Is what Anakin did to Yoda.
It was essentially every bit of dialogue in the room.
Yes. Everyone betrays me. What were you going to say, Connor?
No, it's just, speaking of Anakin, like, I guess because again, we've all seen this movie a million times, but I guess there's something about just being like put into a theater where you actually where you're not distracted by any outside noise. Where, for me at least, for the first time probably ever when it came to this movie, I found myself really, really feeling for Anakin in the case of him struggling between his dedication to the Jedi and being like, I know I'm not the Jedi I should be, but he has this, again, possessive desire to save Padme from his eyes, almost certain death. It is certain death, Anakin. It's kind of your fault. But also continue his friendship with Palpatine, but that get in the way of the council. And the one thing I completely forgot about was everyone talks about you were on this council, but you're not granted the rank of Master Seed, and they see that as like a slight against Mace Windu. And it's like, something that I completely forgot about the scene before is Palpatine legitimately saying, I'm appointing you, Anakin, to be my personal representative on the council. And so the council is just like, well, fuck, we kind of have to do this. Like, but we're not going to abide 100% by it because it's like, what the fuck can we do? Like, they're stuck between that rock and a hard place. And it just, I guess, Anakin's whole scenario in the movie there, I guess, really became super clear to me this time around, just seeing it in the theater, where I was like, I get it, but also the council isn't totally wrong for doing what they did to you with being like, you're on the council, but you're not a master.
Absolutely. And I think it goes to like one of the weird, you're so close, but you're not there with the fandom at large. Again, it's a lot of the dude bros, an element we'll talk about later, who want to absolve Anakin of all wrongdoing and pin all of this on Yoda or Windu or Sidious and go, they did this to Anakin, and how could you have expected any of this not to happen? And remove so much agency from Anakin, which makes this story so fucking compelling, is the choices he makes. And it's like, yeah, the Jedi handled that situation in the only way that they could, like you said, but there also are the failings of the council not even necessarily the failings, but like the end result, the inevitable conclusion of this is not Anakin's turn, but it is the weird espionage and intrigue of, we're going to send you to spy on the Chancellor because the Chancellor sent you to spy on us.
Yep.
And this weird game of cat and mouse, I've said before, I'm like going through all these Legends books right now in Fate of the Jedi. I've just gotten to the part where, for a very long, complicated list of reasons, the Jedi had to depose the current head of state of the Galactic Alliance and are now like the acting arbiters of galactic government. Because they had to overthrow Natasi Dala. And again, it is very confusing. It's very convoluted. It's great. It's convoluted as shit. It's Legends. What'd you expect? But like experiencing that in a book right now, there is a part of me, almost less the maybe Anakin won't turn, and more of me going, I want to see Chancellor Windu. Like, I was like having a legitimate moment of like, yeah, get him. I'll vote for Mace Windu. Windu for Chancellor 2025. Look at the way he kicked that guy in the fucking mouth. But with like Anakin's possessiveness, that it is born of that. What makes Anakin so compelling, what makes him so tragic, is that this is somebody who is offered freedom through the Jedi and freedom through the Force, who will consistently keep enslaving himself to somebody who is giving him a promise of something better. And what makes it so for Anakin, it becomes that, okay, my mother died because I couldn't do it. I can't let that happen again. And that possessiveness over Padme, that moment where it's that, I won't die in childbirth. I promise. No, I promise you. I figured out how to do it. I will protect you. And even when he pledges himself to Sidious, a line that stuck out to me so much more this time than before, I will do whatever you ask. Just help me save Padme. I can't live without her. And we just keep getting these moments where like Anakin is making this life or death situation Padme may or may not be in about himself. And the way that culminates in that confrontation on Mustafar, where, again, he tells on himself. And that was another one that stuck out to me so much, is when he's talking to Padme, where he's like, I'm more powerful than the Chancellor. I can overthrow him. I have enough power.
And I can rule the galaxy together.
You and I can rule the galaxy together.
And he's like, that's a shit.
He's coming up with the plan as he's saying it. Like,
he's coming up with a plan as he's speaking. But there's also this moment where it's like, let's go all the way back to one of the first serious conversations you and Padme ever had, where you low-key told on yourself for like wanting a dictatorship. And she said,
you found if it works.
And she said, you sound fucking stupid, Anakin. And he's so drunk on power, and he's, you know, and again, it's all been about him for so long at this point for him. Yes, he's making he's doing these horrendous things in her name, but it's for him. So he doesn't have to live with this loss. And we've arrived at this point where it's like, you want this thing you've clearly low-key wanted the whole time, to have full control over the galaxy and make the things that you think are bad never happen. And now you're projecting that onto this woman who has explicitly said time and time again, that is not a fucking galaxy I want to live in. And just that moment where where you realize so quickly this was about him and not Padme. It's because he fears for her loss, but it's about him and how he feels about it. And the fact that moment where he feels betrayed and rejected, all of that pretense about only I can save you, I've done all of this to protect you, goes out the window, and he tries to fucking kill her.
And he just starts slashing out at just everything around him. Like it's not
Go with him
logic at all. Like it is so transparently like not just childish, but just directionless. Like there is no clear path forward, not just in terms of his, plan of I could overthrow him. Like I said, he's making that plan up as he says it. But like when he's like, don't you turn against me, all that, there is no clear plan forward, even as he's like choking her. Like that's not an I'm breaking up with you. It's not a I can fix this. It's purely just it's representational of what the dark side does, is that it takes these positive emotions and like love, and it twists them into something so dark, and then you get so corrupted by it that you just destroy everything around you. The dark side inherently does that.
And it doesn't even feel like you're destroying everything either.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
until it's
clear
too
plan
late.
and you're
You feel like you're on the
Fulfilling
right
your
path.
destiny.
What'd you say, Bill?
I said no clear plan and you're choking me. That sounds like a Wednesday.
Hey, Lamau.
Classic Sheehy moment. Dave, like anybody else with like Anakin thoughts? Connor, I know you're getting ready to weigh in. I just kind of barreled through because I didn't want to lose my momentum there. Did you have something else to say?
I mean, just I guess. No, I don't think. I think you kind of just hit the nail on the head. And I guess for me, it's just like, oh, another thing is again also related to the other material. Maybe it's because I've seen Clone Wars. I've sort of through osmosis, gotten other bits of Anakin's life pre Revenge of the Sith and the prequels. But like for me, at least, just independent of all that, I felt like Anakin's arc in this movie alone was pretty decently paced. So,
well, that's something, Michael. I'll throw to you on that in a moment. Bill, Kason, any thoughts on like the Anakin possessiveness? Because again, like I said, like that's something I knew intellectually, but like really felt in like a really palpable way for the first time. Do either of you guys have a take on that before we talk about like pacing with Anakin's turn?
Here's my take on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think when I was talking about the cracks, like that feels like one of the big things for me is that like it doesn't feel like it's like a cartoonish version of possessiveness, like it's possessiveness like without any thought, which I know that's kind of like it. There's a lot of the Anakin and Padme relationship that doesn't feel real, and like it. I don't know
that. I do agree with you on, and I think that's been a long-standing criticism of the prequels in general, is the highly, I don't want to say unrealistic, because that sounds kind of like, I'm inherently saying it's bad, but just like a heightened, like romanticized version of romance that is featured in both Clones and this movie. And it's more talking about love than feeling that they're actually in love,
Yeah.
And I've talked about this, in our group chat a good bit. Last time I watched Attack of the Clones, is it feels very Shakespearean. And that's very clearly like a lot of the inspiration George is going with. And I felt that a lot in this viewing as well, is that
the thing with Shakespeare ain't real. Like,
no, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying this is what I clocked in my influence. Like,
No, I get.
as I was watching
I
it.
hear it. I'll let you.
Is it just felt very theatrical. It felt like I was almost watching a stage play at times with like the scenes of like them on the balcony. Any scene with them one-on-one felt like a literal theatrical performance. And I mean that as a compliment because I kind of see George's vision with that. I don't necessarily think it works the best integrated into the movie. And like you said, Bill, I think there is fair criticism there that the romance is not the strongest. I think it's one thing that expanded material like Clone Wars or fucking Thrawn Alliances has helped with, like I think we've kind of solidified it more over time, but I do think in the context of the film, that's very valid criticism.
No, I'm inclined to agree. And I do think Bill's right, or it's one of those, like, I'm kind of like grading it on the merit of what it's going for and not how it executes it. And I agree. Like it is very slapdash, and it doesn't. I would go so far as say even Clone Wars and other ancillary material has never quite sold me on Anakin and Padme's relationship. Like in practice, in theory, I understand it, and it is very cartoonish, and it is very. I love how you put that. Like they're not in love; they're talking about being in love. Especially with I think you put.
So love has blinded you.
Yeah, that scene. I was like, holy shit. Like, this has never been good.
So, okay.
Real quick.
There has never been a relationship or a couple that has said any of that. Like, it's not, that's not what healthy couples.
One fun story I would like to tell about my first ever viewing of Revenge of the Sith. When I was a wee little babby child in the theater watching it with my dad, is when that scene came on, the audio straight up cut out. We lost all of the audio in that scene. And so I did not hear that dialogue when I first saw the film. But then afterward, the manager came out and apologized and gave us all like a free ticket afterwards. So,
hell yeah.
Love that.
And we got the sound back not long after, but it was just that one scene. And I just think of all the scenes you could lose sound on, the fact that it was that one is deeply funny.
Wait, I missed you for a moment because Taylor popped her head in. Was it the
balcony? So love is blinded.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
So one thing I just want to mention because I just remembered it. One thing I want to mention, less about Revenge of the Sith and more just about the re-releases. I get why they probably didn't do it, but it really would have been so god darn cool if in these re-releases they add all the deleted scenes in.
100%. It is.
That'd be super.
I feel like that would be such great market. That would be like that's even more of an incentive to see these movies again.
I agree with you. I truly wish, especially now that Genevieve O'Reilly is like so many people's definitive Mon Mothma, to get like a retroactive cameo from like how most people think of Mon Mothma would have been awesome. And just like I don't know. It is one of my core criticisms of this film, especially seeing it in the theater. I was like, yeah, Padme is like criminally not in this movie.
Yeah.
She is like literally barefoot.
I remember you telling me about it.
Like it's buck wild. And
yeah,
you're barefoot and pregnant, like you said. And it like, she has so much to offer to this story. And it it almost accidentally lends itself towards seeing the story through Anakin's hyper possessive lens, that we see so little of what Padme has going on. And whenever Kason came over to my place to watch the movie, I was telling him, I was like, there are all of these deleted scenes that shed so much more light on how Anakin and Padme's relationship is deteriorating. Which I think adds a really important element to that possessiveness. Like when you see, Anakin and Padme, like Anakin's not only worried about Padme dying in childbirth, and Anakin doesn't also have the weight of that, and also the weight of being a soon-to-be father, and also the weight of the war and the council and the chancellor. He also has the weight of the fact that like he's watching he and his wife end up on different ends of the political spectrum in real fucking time.
Because the only thing you get that in the cut we get is you're starting to sound like a
separatist.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like the way he snaps on her. And I told Kason, I'm like, yeah, if you saw this movie the way if it had like the delegation of whatever the fuck, because I can never remember the number.
Delegation of 2000.
It's 2000.
Yep.
2000.
Okay, the delegation of 2000 stuff, like, you realize that Anakin and Padme are having that conversation after they were just in a contentious meeting with the Chancellor, where he basically said, okay, you senators go play with your toys. I have a war to win, and I'm going to stay in office as long as I need to. Piss off. And Anakin stood behind him the whole time, never piping up and shooting evil eyes at Padme the whole time. I was like, why are you saying this? Why are you doing this? And that's another reason why I wish those scenes were in the movie. I wish we could like definitively say this is canon. And I almost wish that it was leaned into more as an idea of like adding to Anakin's possessiveness and this guy who's like, oh, I can't stand to lose the things I care about. It's not just Padme dying. It's your relationship is falling apart because you're just so blindly ideologically devoted to this guy who can't stop selling you a false bill of goods. Much like in the real world with people who like politicians like that.
Hey.
Star Wars.
But Star Wars isn't political, people.
Get that political shit out of my Star Wars.
It got political as soon as the Jawas and the Mandalorian wanted the egg.
It got woke.
But yeah, I mean, does anybody else have any like Anakin thoughts here?
My only major thought was just like we kind of touched upon, it just felt more relatable to me this time. Like I empathized with it more.
Yeah.
I still have the criticism of Conor. I love what you said about how well paced it is because I fully agree until just after the turn. We escalate from cutting off Mace Windu's hand to the slaughter of children in less than 10 minutes. And I'm like, and part of that's just the inclusion of the Soros Bandium. Is that how you say his name? Scene in general. Like I talked about this with Conor the other night. We were talking where I've pretty much for a while been in the camp of I don't know why we emphasized Anakin killing the younglings when it should have been the clones go after the younglings. Anakin goes after the Knights and Masters. Like I don't know.
Such a good point.
Yeah,
I really love that.
Like I get what we're going for in showing the downfall of Anakin, and the extremes he's gone to, but the escalation to child murder in less than 10 minutes flat is a little jarring.
Yeah, it is one of those instances where again it's like it is the ultimate thing with the prequels, right? And it's that aside from the memes, and we're getting there. It is the appreciation of the themes and ideas at play. Where like I understand that Soros and the younglings are meant to represent Anakin is about to deal a blow to the Jedi Order that it will never fully recover from. It is, it's something that I found so interesting in Legends is that like it really only took the Jedi like 60 years to get pretty close back to its former glory.
The Jedi bounced back pretty
wild
quick
to me
in terms of like bouncing far, going either way, like pretty consistently in Legends. Because like 5 years after KOTOR, they're almost extinct.
Yeah, like they're constantly on the cusp of being wiped out. So there's that, and I understand that like Soros Bandim intentionally looks like a young Anakin. That that Anakin is killing his own innocence once and for all. That like you can make excuses for what he did to the Tuscans in a fit of passion. This is something where it's like you don't have beef with these children. You're making a conscious decision to commit an atrocity because you've been given a promise about something good that will happen if you do it. Like I understand thematically that. I fully agree with you, Michael. I fully agree with you. And for my little lightsaber goes burr brain, it also gives us an excuse to watch Anakin actually fight the Jedi and not feel super guilty about it.
And just one other point I want to make, Jarod, you and I talked about this a few months ago. For those of you who don't know, obviously I'm the GM of Ionized Bastards. I play a lot of D&D as well. My favorite class is the Warlock because I fucking love me a Faustian bargain. That is maybe my favorite fictional trope is a deal with the devil. And we had talked, a couple months ago, Jarod, about, viewing Anakin and Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith as a deal with the devil. It is a Faustian bargain. But I think what stood out to me is the atypical nature of the trope in this movie, because typically, a Faustian bargain is you get what you wanted, but it's a monkey's paw and it's not in the way you want. In this, it's Anakin essentially did everything to get Palpatine's end of the deal, and then in doing so, inadvertently killed Padme, potentially, to, essentially not be able to get his end of the deal, and now he's stuck as, in servitude to said devil. So
yeah, and like you said, the Shakespeare of it all, it's very Macbeth, it's very Romeo and Juliet of, self-fulfilling prophecies and tragedies, and, in how hastily you acted, you facilitated the thing you gave everything to try to prevent. Absolutely. If nobody has anything on Anakin, I want to talk about the action in this movie. Because
Dude, seeing the space battle on the
Mhm.
big screen again was awesome.
that's a top tier Star Wars opening. I don't care what your thoughts on this
100%.
movie are.
100%.
Absolutely.
I have had a 180 on an opinion I had for a very long time.
Me too.
I love the Mace Windu Darth Sidious fight now.
Go fuck yourself.
I
The bad
Fuck
take.
yourself.
The really bad take.
Honestly, the
No.
funniest thing about that fight is the fact that in the year 2025, and I get that they probably don't want to make changes or can't, we still get the morphed CGI Palpatine face
Yeah.
that you can clearly tell in like a couple shots during that fight. That's the funniest shit.
The CGI face is wild. They used, there's very famously the footage early in the fight from the first version of it. Because for those who don't know, they originally shot a version of the fight where Anakin is there the whole time.
A la
And,
Sam Reich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been here the whole time, Master. Where Anakin is present, and when the fighting starts, Palpatine uses Anakin's lightsaber. And early on in the fight, you can clearly tell that Anakin is holding that Darth Sidious is holding the Skywalker lightsaber, but with a red blade. And they hope you don't notice, but we have. And it's shot like hell, and Palpatine does an inexplicable bounce off of the holo projector, and it's kind of insane, and I used to hate it, and it used to make me upset that one of my top 5 Jedi of all time finally gets to go toe-to-toe with somebody in a lightsaber duel, and it looks like hell.
I didn't know you loved Agent Kolar that much.
No, man, it's AC-10. Fuck Agent Kolar. It's AC all day, baby. I'm a Stacey baby.
I really love Palpatine's TIE fighter impression when he does his corkscrew.
The
It's
Force
such
scream.
a strange sound design choice, isn't
Where
it?
it just
Okay, yeah. Pause. That was something I was going to bring up later, but Michael, you did it. Can we talk about, before I get back into the action and my 180 on Windu versus Sidious? There are so many weird fucking noises in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like
They're all ingrained into my brain.
They're all ingrained in my brain, and it's all the sound of people gargling, even droids kind of going.
Wrong with you. He sounds like fucking Orlok. Like,
yeah. Crazy style. But but there's the weird gargling. There is, and it's weird every time, and I think it's the sound of Vader crying, but right before the there's just so many weird guttural noises throughout the movie. But so that had always been my take about the Sidious Windu fight. And I'm sitting in the theater Thursday night, and I'm like, and I was like, okay, I'm glad I'm seeing this in the theater a second time, Because maybe it's just I'm excited to see Mace Windu fight on the big screen for the first time since I was a kid. Because I've always loved Mace Windu. And I'm seeing it, and I'm like, it's shot like hell. The choreography's weird because the set was too small. All of the things we all know about why this fight looks the way it does. But Ian McDiarmid and Sam Jackson's performances fucking save it for me.
Mm-hmm.
Sidious is edging the entire time because he is finally getting to personally kill Jedi, and he's bricked from the moment the tip of his blade pierces Aegon Kolar's torso.
Not a good enough reason to use the word tip, but okay, go on.
Look, I get pretty excited when my tip penetrates too. So
Absolutely.
Ayo. So like Sidious is already riding this high, and now he gets to go toe to toe with a political rival of his. That like I think he's riding that high too. Of like, oh, Windu's had so much smoke for me this entire time. Well, watch this, bitch. And that's great. And with Mace. And I am not going to entertain any of the things that people don't understand about Mace fucking Windu. So please understand that he doesn't use the goddamn
He
dark
uses
side.
both sides of the Force.
Oh.
Trust me, bro.
It's purple.
Can I tell you
because
one of the
that's
dumbest Star Wars takes
blue
I've
and
ever
red.
heard in my life?
Sure.
I remember, like, when I was a kid, it like when Palpatine comes back from the invisible hand, and like somebody used Mace Windu asking Palpatine if he was all right as justification for he was a dark side user because he knew that Palpatine was Palpatine, and he was like, "Oh, I want to check on my master," which is so fucking dumb.
God. Despite the fact
and like
that
they
so
were
much of Star Wars is books, a lot of these motherfuckers can't read.
No, that's fine. If they could read, they'd be pissed right now.
But so it's like the way Sidious is emoting during the fight. And again, I say all that about Mace. I'm not saying he's tapping into the dark side and his anger and his hatred. It's purple. But
do that again.
Purple
It's
means ambiguous.
But the fucking righteous fury in Mace Windu's face when he is fucking running the most devious of fades on the Emperor is the best
Bro's
shit.
jaw is clenched the entire time.
Dude, and I've seen so many people talk about that one bit where they like have a quick exchange and then Mace kind of feigns backward and the Emperor has him at blade point.
Yep,
people are like, oh, that looks dumb. That
looks great. What are you talking about?
I know. Because what I love is like
even I'm not gonna talk shit about that. That's cool as fuck.
Because whenever Mace comes out here, and people are like, oh, he could just stab him, and Mace immediately shows why he can't, because the Emperor does try to, and he gets him in that like crazy like full body like blade bind, and he comes up over the blade. The look in Windu's eyes.
That is
when they get that close up on him, and
Yeah.
again, in the Revenge of the Sith novelization, which like it does not need me to gush over it for the billionth time. However, it talks like there's that moment where it's talking about Mace's internal monologue, and it's like the Jedi creed is that one should not have attachment. However, if there is one thing that Mace Windu is attached to, it is the fucking Republic and what it stands for and what it exists to be. And not only in his mind has Chancellor Sheev Palpatine, former senator from Naboo, been an affront to it by trying to become a despot, he now knows that same motherfucker is a whole ass Sith Lord. And we have gone from you need to be removed from office and maybe arrested to you need to fucking die because I know what you want to do and it is on me to put you down. And just fucking Christ, man. The performances from Jackson and McDiarmid are like they fully saved that fight for me. Like and again, and I was like, maybe it's just seeing it on the big screen for the first time since I was a kid. And then we watch it in my living room, and I'm like, fuck, I think I love this fight now. And I was like, maybe I'm still riding the high from Thursday night. And then I go see it Sunday, and I'm enraptured still. Guys, I think the second best fight in Revenge of the Sith is Darth Sidious versus Mace Windu. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hell yeah, brother.
So
Hell yeah.
on to more rational discussion for a moment.
Well,
The fight.
Jared, to be so drunk on a stream is really it's malpractice, really.
This is not the drunkest I've been on camera, and I am sober as a judge, and I stand by it.
Well, listen, all the judges here are pretty intoxicated. So
I did a 180 on a fight as well, Jared, but it wasn't that one. It for damn sure was not that one. With all due respect. I've done a complete 180 on Yoda Sidious.
yeah,
Ooh.
Because
I agree.
I didn't talk about it too much earlier, but I did have a prequel hater era, very brief one, Connor. Got into like red letter media and all that shit. And then obviously around the time of TFA, I came out of that. Yeah, those were stinky times for your boy. But I got really into like the ideology of like Yoda should never use a lightsaber. That's stupid bullshit.
he's a fucking Jedi. I'm sorry. That's like
but all that aside, I think part of me still lingered on that for a little bit. And obviously because it is going on parallel to the Anakin Obi-Wan fight, I feel like it gets sort of lost in the shuffle there a little bit when it comes to how we think about and how we discuss Revenge of the Sith. I think it's the better of the two fights. I think it is also the best Force user be Force user battle we see on screen. When they are literally throwing
In terms of the
pods.
I'm clarifying this for anybody watching. In terms of like a magical duel, not
yes,
like
in terms of
sword play.
actually
Yeah.
using the Force, because the only other time we really get like just pure Force use versus Force use is that shitty bit in Attack of the Clones where they're throwing rocks at each other for about a minute with Dooku and Yoda. Like, it is the much better version of that.
Even as a kid, I remember being like, "This is odd."
It just feels like
I
a
wish
video
I
game
was-
where you're just waiting for the attack to come in so you can do the QTE to throw it aside.
Dude,
you
I
know?
wish. Speaking of Attack of the Clones, real quick, man, I fucking wish I was like a teenager in that time, because like I would have flipped my absolute shit seeing Yoda just force pull the saber to his hand. I would have lost
that
my
too.
shit, dude.
Listen, I am the Yoda hater of all Yoda haters.
That move is so sick, though.
He hits that fucking Clint Eastwood shit, and I'll even go so far as to say Yoda deciding to aura farm every time he draws his sword is like, I'm not weird about Yoda having a lightsaber. I think it's wildly out of fucking character.
no,
For
I love
Yoda-
it.
for
I
Yoda
fucking
to,
love
like-
it.
One-liners?
I think, well, that's the thing, though, is like Yoda is so like at the top of the whole thing and he's the Grand Master and all this shit. And then like, it's like, yo, listen, man, if you're bringing me out and I have to get this thing out, like, you're a problem.
Also,
You need to
also,
be taken care
like,
of.
Yeah,
I think Yoda is so badass in that moment where if so powerful you are, why leave?
why leave?
And then like Palpatine's response is so like bitch ass, like, oh, he'll become more powerful than either of us. Like, that's not the same thing. Like,
Yeah,
he's
like,
trying too hard, and it doesn't feel like.
And also,
on
don't
the
forget
same
Yoda's
level.
other one-liner in that scene where he's like, "At our end, your reign is not sure
Not
if it
soon enough
was."
it was.
And like, well, and again,
And then
like, I don't-
Say anything. Like, he's just
I
like.
love the one-liners. I love the one-liners from Yoda. I love watching Yoda cut a fucking promo on Darth Sidious. It's actually fucking awesome. My thing is the fucking, in the words of the great American poet Will Smith, you better watch
On your
where my
mark,
hit-
ready, set, let's go.
Don't get me started on that one. But it's that you better watch. You better make sure my hand where my hit be at. Shit, where he like pulls back the cloak to like flash his fucking Glock at somebody is how that feels. Like, and he does it every time. And I understand that it's very Jedi. The Dave Filoni, the Jedi puts their lightsaber on the table before we start negotiating thing. but like watching Yoda in both of his lightsaber duels go, nah, motherfucker. Before doing it, it's cool as shit. So not Yoda. It is so threatening from anybody. Like, not even Anakin should be like, you sure?
And
You sure?
one
You
more
sure?
note about that scene. We all love, of course, him throwing the guards against the wall. That's obviously hilarious. But what's more funny is watching the scene from the perspective of Masamita. Like, has no fucking business being there and is looking for the soonest opportunity to get to the door to let them do their thing.
Yeah,
Like that meme where the kid's standing there with the cup, just like
Yes.
doesn't know what the hell to do with himself.
No, the way Masamita pieces out, that got a chuckle out of me. Because again, like I know he walks out right before the real fighting starts. And again, and what we're talking about the Yoda one-liners, at last the Jedi are no more. Not have anything to say about it. I have. And watching
one killed
Palpatine
me.
go ass over tea kettle over the chair is just so fucking undignified.
In the most natural way, which is very unnatural in like a cinematic experience.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
like, I think Revenge of the Sith has a few like comedic moments where it's just like, okay, they know what they're doing here, and that felt like one of them, where it's just like, it's so slapstick, so like Three Stooges, where it's just like,
And I think that speaks to George's ethos with these movies. With the like again, this movie goes to a very dark place. The execution, the younglings, all of Order 66, Anakin's immolation, like all of that, very grim. But I think George makes a point of, even if Yoda loses the fight, and he lost the fight, he George has a moment to go, look, kids, the big, powerful, evil emperor is a foppish fucking idiot. Watch Yoda put him on his ass.
Watch his butt in the air.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Darth Sidious does a reverse scorpion. Where his balls are almost on his head. Like when he crumples up flying over his chair. It's just so funny. And I absolutely love it. And
I think
I will
another
Teabag yourself, you will.
another part of the action that I really like, that we don't really get much of in these movies, which I understand, is like the clones versus droids on Kashyyyk and Utapau.
Yeah.
And the one moment I always think about that I always find really cool, mainly just because I like the design of these droids, is like when the one clone trooper like gets on top of the mini crab droid.
Unloading from the top of the crab droid is so good. Those crab droids, which I mostly know from the Revenge of the Sith.
And fuck.
I also love, like, obviously I'm a big Magna Guards guy. Love their inclusion in Survivor, but I really
Jared's
like
not a big Magna Guard guy.
I don't.
Jared, why do you not like the Magna
Guard? I wonder.
I think they're a bunch of mark ass bitches, and anytime one pulls up on me, they walk away in several pieces. I walk away in there in several pieces.
Trying to think what other action scenes in Revenge of
and
the
Michael,
Sith.
if you do the voice right now, I will swat you.
I wasn't going to do the voice yet. But I think it's also worth noting that we should probably touch a little bit on Battle of the Heroes.
I would say
the first 10 seconds. So for me,
before we touch on Battle of the Heroes, I have I have two very specific notes. Like I want to save the Battle of the Heroes conversation for the end of the action segment here. The first one I want to talk about. I am on the record with, as much as I, believe in counter programming against fandom menace nonsense. Love to talk about the double standard like Revenge of the Sith truthers have for the new stuff. And I just kind of want to do a quick rundown of the Grievous fight. In the movie that all of the people who would nail themselves to a cross for this movie say about stuff like the sequel trilogy and the Acolyte. And Kason heard me get on this fucking soapbox when he was over, so he knows where this is going.
It's so good.
So, this movie introduces somebody who is presented to us as a notorious Jedi killer. And we're just going to take the movie at face value. For the moment, forget about the fucking Clone Wars. Forget about the Clone Wars. In fact, think only about the Clone Wars micro-series for a brief moment. Okay?
Yeah,
You're introduced to this character, General Grievous, who is in this movie for, I think, collectively, in like a 2.5-hour movie, 15 to 20 minutes.
Quick
Who's a
pause.
notorious... What?
Just in case, I would imagine people who are watching this have, but in case anybody doesn't know about the miniseries or what he's talking about, it's like a Samurai Jack animation style Star Wars. Go watch that shit immediately.
Yes,
Anyway,
and then watch
continue.
the season we did on Pro and Noob about it. So we're introduced to this notorious Jedi killer who we have seen on 2 separate occasions in the Clone Wars micro series go toe-to-toe, outnumbered at least 4-1, and absolutely massacre a room full of Jedi ranked from Padawan all the way up to Master.
And it's not a matter of beat Grievous, it's a matter of fucking run.
It's a matter of get away alive. It is, in the same way Vader has always been presented, simply surviving an encounter with this man is a feat. He's presented as this notorious, brilliant tactician, and the novelization refers to him as the architect of every single separatist atrocity, who is such a massive threat that he is known not only by name, but by reputation, who everybody in all of our characters desperately need to be killed because he is a known Jedi killer who can escape anything.
Mhm.
This guy, when he finally pops out his scary second set of arms, is literally disarmed within 3 minutes. And then retreats, gets down on his haunches like a terrifying robot spider, and escapes to his clearly put in the movie to sell toys Hot Wheel that is not only just completely insanely designed, but is also shaped like him.
The wheel bike is fucking awesome, and
The
I will
wheel
hear
bike-
no criticism of
The
it.
wheel bike fucking rules. The wheel bike looks like General Grievous.
Yes.
It
that
also
is
looks
Some
like
Power Rangers shit.
it looks
that
like
is-
Jack Atlas's motorcycle in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds.
Sure it does.
Good point. He makes a
but
good
like-
point.
But literally, it's shaped like him. It has legs like him. It's the same color palette. Like it has little accent marks on it that look like him. This is Power Rangers shit. And then instead of having a lightsaber duel with the scary Jedi killer with 4 fucking arms, we go on a high-speed chase where Obi-Wan Kenobi, legendary hero of the Republic, is riding a fucking dinosaur, chasing the big bad, vaguely Russian cyborg on a wheel bike shaped like him down the street. And then no more lightsabers are involved because Obi-Wan Kenobi manages to drop his lightsaber and it miraculously lands in the lap of his clone lieutenant with Commander Cody during the ground battle. Obi-Wan then chases Grievous unarmed. They have a full-on fucking 5-star classic wrestling match on the landing pad where Obi-Wan Kenobi, again, a brilliant tactician, so we're told, tries to kick a robot in the shin. And then
Which, if you take it in the context of the Clone Wars, is extra funny because they've fought like 16 times.
Mhm.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Even dumber now. So he kicks the robot in the shin and then reaches up to his chest to pry open this terrifying cyborg's highly flammable gut sack.
My favorite thing is he just rips open his rib cage bare hands.
He just rips it open bare hands.
It's all the Force.
And then Obi-Wan Kenobi, legendary swordsman, fights this legendary swordsman Jedi killer by prying his chest open and shooting him in the guts. And the same people who got angry about fire in space and this Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon ass fight choreography in Acolyte talk about this movie like it's the second coming of Christ. And I just, like, again, the fucking bike is shaped like General Grievous, and people have the audacity.
And these
to
are
say that
also
stuff now is silly.
These are the same people who will bitch about continuity or bad choreography in the TLJ throne room fight. but don't say a fucking word about how the entire environment around them changes once the fight starts. Because they start off on a flat platform with Obi-Wan in front of the goddamn thing he just crashed into the ground. And then next thing you know, they're on a fucking catwalk.
Next thing, they're on a catwalk. And also, speaking of the continuity with the disappearing knife with the Praetorian guards, again, all these same people, no problem with the fact that Grievous already has Obi-Wan and Anakin's lightsaber.
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, is it a big deal? No. Is the fight fun? Yes. But
Debatable.
it's shit like this when I'm like, you people are so goddamn inconsistent, it drives me crazy. This is everything I'm talking about. If a fight that hit all of the same beats, the wild continuity issues, the silly framing, the ridiculous vehicle, the just like contrived, Obi-Wan dropped his lightsaber and it fell on Cody's head shit, would never fly today. Like, there would be riots in Anaheim over this fucking fight if it came out today.
Yep.
But hello there, General Kenobi, so it's fine. Also, Anakin Obi-Wan versus Dooku rules.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's also kind of messy, but like it's like poetry, it rhymes.
The ending is a little clunky, but
the ending is clunky, but
The first
Also, in the Revenge of the Sith game, there's more dialogue that Count Dooku does. That like,
well, if
Just
Dooku
because
has more
they're
than 4
cool.
lines of dialogue, then that's more than he
Yeah.
has in the movie.
your sword, please. We don't.
Quick side note.
Things from the Chancellor.
yes, Kason.
In this movie, as we all love it to death, as we're talking about things like this and like critiques, I guess it's not really a big critique because like I understand that it was 2005, but also Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest came out in 2006.
That's a good point.
So if Davy Jones can play the piano with all 72 of his little tentacles like that, and it looks that damn good, I feel like we could have got a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I highly recommend it. It is on YouTube because I watched it last night. Look up Within a Minute. It is the behind the scenes documentary about how they do not the entire Obi-Wan and Anakin fight. It is literally when they get on the lava control arm, Kason, that up to the eruption and the control arm falling into the lava and then fighting on it while it's going down the lava fall. Like that 47-second moment and everything that went into it.
Cost like $17 million.
I understand that we have to put more effort into the climactic battle and not this kind of like middle moment to make sure the kiddos don't fall asleep. But I agree with you that we should have gotten more with the Grievous shit. But yeah, like I said, and it's not something I care that much about. It's just something I needed to make a point of because I demand ideological consistency from people. Right. And
also, I love the not talked about tuberculosis of General Grievous. He just because like he's like as we said, he's terrifying in the miniseries, right? And like you hear about his reputation, like he's so scary, he's so scary. Run if you see him, and then like he shows up and he's just this goofy ass motherfucker.
He's a mustache
like
twirling coward who he's a Saturday
bowler
morning
hat guy from Meet the Robinsons.
Time to abandon ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole thing.
And even all the characters in the story are talking shit. They're like, General Grievous will run and hide like he always does. Like,
I will also say before we get into Obi-Wan v. Anakin, I don't know if this is a hot take. I hate the idea that Mace Windu gave him his cough 5 minutes before the movie starts. I love it. I love that it's just an imperfection with the armor.
Yeah, I don't love it.
I like it. I like that in canon he has always had the cough, as opposed to Legends where he was fine and then Mace did like force crushed the carapace and now he has the cough. I've never liked that.
That's fair.
But yeah, so the Dooku fight, I love it. It is an amazing parallel. I love the ways that this movie parallels Return of the Jedi. in very specific ways. It's the inverse of it. It's also the inverse of a lot of the Kylo Ren stuff. I've talked about that ad nauseum. Anybody who's heard me talk about Anakin and Ben's like reflected journeys have heard me talk about that. But it really is just like, oh, like this is the same, Faustian bargain the Emperor will make to Luke in like 23 years of the, kill him and take his place. And I love that. But Battle of the Heroes, we're here. How does this fight hold up in 2025 for everybody?
Bad.
The first, like the first sequence of them from the beginning to when they get off the table, when they're fighting each other, best part, one of the top 5 sequences in Star Wars. Everything after that, still pretty solid, but not as
I'm being
exciting.
a little hyperbolic. I think it starts good. When they get to the control room, everything is fucking great, barring the one goofy moment where they're twirling their sabers around themselves, not hitting anything. That very gifable moment. Once
really like
they
that moment.
leave the control room, it becomes, I joked about this with Jarod the other day. It's a proper wrestling walk and brawl. It is them going through the crowd. They'll hit each other once, take 12 steps forward, hit each other again. Like it's
big
goofy
boom with
the
a trash
amount that they
can.
are moving more than fighting, And I think it goes on a little too long. I think it goes a little too far into being over the top and borderline cartoony. But I obviously, the ending gets memed to death. Whether or not you view it as a positive or negative because of that is sort of up in the air. But I think it draws itself a little too thin in terms of going on too long, to where it actually loses some of the dramatic weight it should have.
I'm gonna pause for one moment. And we're back. I don't, you probably saw it on camera. I got attacked by a huge fucking bug. Because I made the mistake of opening the window to get some air in here, and Michael joked that it was the first episode of Ionized Bastards all over again, where I got attacked by a huge fucking bug during the episode.
Which I think actually got cut from that first episode, but I've still got the clip of it somewhere. Remind me and I'll post it on Blue Sky.
Yes, please do. So, okay, Michael thinks the fight goes on for too long, thinks it gets silly. Bill, you very forcefully said bad take. Defend the fight. Rebuttal to Michael.
Okay, so like from the very, very beginning, like this fight was like set up as the de facto fight in hell, like that would make Darth Vader. And like in every like facet of it, from like the choreography to the dialogue to just like it just feels like it's heightened. It's everything that we love about the prequels to the nth degree. And like, yeah, some of the things might be silly. The thing behind the back is kind of silly, but like these are also just like Jedi at the height of their powers. And I think that despite that, even though you have all like the choreography and all that stuff, the emotion like throughout it, like I think I was really kind of struck by how like the fight itself, like at various points, like it doesn't feel like one person has the advantage. It feels like all of them are fighting like at every point, and nobody is winning, like to the point where like even where it looks like, okay, well this guy has the advantage now, all of a sudden like when they're going through the water, like down that waterfall, it looks like, oh, Obi-Wan's won a little bit, but then Anakin, through a feat of God, jumps through it and finds a little panel, a little thing to find safety in, and it just,
Taylor made a
everything,
joke when we were watching it at home and said it's like jumping off of a diving board and landing on a Roomba.
Yeah. No, that's true. But like he he found that Roomba. So like
Found the lava
The
Roomba.
Force guided
He found
him
the-
to the Roomba.
he did. And so like I think what struck me this time, like the parts that were supposed to hit me like when like we're getting towards the end of it. And even like the end of it where like this you can meme it all you want. It's over, Anakin. I have the high ground. Everything up to that is like it is great, and then like it hits a different level when like Obi-Wan has like cut off his hands and legs, and like then it's like this is someone who has believed their own hype and is like now suffering the consequences of all their like of all their decisions in the movie. And like I will say the one thing that I wish that they had kept in it, I know there was a deleted scene or deleted take where Anakin, after he's been, you know, not decapitated, but his
Dismembered.
Disarmed.
where he's trying, like he looks at Obi-Wan and says, "Please." Like if that had been in the movie, I think that would have like taken it to like that's just it's all heartbreaking, but like if you have Anakin begging to like for Obi-Wan to save him, and then Obi-Wan doesn't, I think that adds another dimension. But like, given what we got, I still think it works.
I'm glad you brought that up, Bill, because that was something I thought about as well. Is that like Master Please moment that didn't make it to the final cut? Because, you know, Legends and canon both played with this idea that Obi-Wan thought Anakin died and then found out he was alive. And they tackle it very differently. You know, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show in canon, it's kind of the turning point of the series for him. In Legends, it's kind of a Obi-Wan going, oh, it like shit's still just as real as it was when I went into hiding. And it's only like it's within the first year of the Empire he realizes as well. But Obi-Wan carrying with him the guilt of thinking he killed Anakin, because that's another thing that Legends doesn't really play with, is it doesn't really spend too much time investing in Obi-Wan's guilt for what he did to Anakin. Like in Legends, he just kind of views it all as like one massive clusterfuck of a tragedy, that the smallest part of it is he had to absolutely annihilate his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And it still didn't stick. What like in canon, the version we have of Obi-Wan, who is not only mourning the Jedi Order and not only mourning his brother, is also carrying the guilt of letting all of this happen and the guilt of thinking he killed him. I can only imagine how much mileage the Obi-Wan Kenobi show would have gotten over the sound of "Master, please," you know, and the immediate pivot to "I hate you" from that. So I agree with you. I agree with a lot of what you said about the fight and that specific beat. Me personally, and I've said this a lot of times, so I won't dwell on it. My biggest issue with the Obi-Wan and Anakin fight is twofold. One, I don't mind how long it goes on for. I get annoyed with the obstacle course of it all. Like when it turns into an episode of Wipeout from Hell, is when I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys. Like, again, I like the
balancing
hazard.
act where they barely swing on each other, like
Yeah, where they're just kind of going, like that is, you know, what I don't mind that as much. You know, the lava arm falls. I don't know. There's a version of this fight where, like, if it were me telling this story, the lava arm starts to, you know, melt off and begins to fall. And I simply would have had them like land on another part of the like the mineral refinery without the, you know, and now we're going down the river and now we got to jump over this and now we got to jump onto here and now we're both on a tiny little platform. Like I wouldn't even mind if it's
working.
Yeah, run into these two guys who are having the weirdest day at work ever. They get off of the lava river, go back into that conference room, and see a whole room of political dignitaries cut to pieces. You know,
Not again.
not again. But like, I don't mind
Third
the fight.
time this week.
I don't mind them ending up on that hovering platform to lead into, it's over, Anakin, I have the high ground. I don't mind it ending there. It's the Anakin, Obi-Wan jumps off the thing, and then Anakin jumps off the thing, and now he's on the lava Roomba, and now they're fighting on the lava
Now they're
Roomba.
swinging.
And we're swinging, you know, we're doing the Tarzan shit. Like, that's the part where it's like, I don't mind the length. I just think that part is just kind of out of fucking control. And I wish that they stayed on the ground for the most part. My other issue with the fight, and I can now say that I've watched within a minute again. I stand by this. I hate the way the fight is shot. I hate the way that it's shot. It is the issue, honestly, of most of the fights in this movie. All of them. It is shot way too close up.
Yeah.
And Michael and Bill and Conor and Kason have heard me complain about this off air more times than I can count. But like, when you see the behind the scenes footage of Hayden and Ewan rehearsing and then filming the fight, and you see all of the little moments in it in a wide shot or a medium shot, and then you just get this super close up and tight bit of it, you lose so much of how insane this fight is. Because Bill, like you were saying, you know, and it's like what, you know, the now disgraced Nick Gillard had said, you know, it's like these two guys who are not only matching each other tit for tat in terms of pure swordsmanship, it's, you know, they know each other's game so well. That adds to how, you know, it's why we get the silly spin. And like watching within a minute was the first time I realized, right before that like iconic shot where they're like kind of like grappling and they like both have their hands around the other one's wrist, you know, like kind of fighting for supremacy there. Obi-Wan goes into a full fucking reverse grip. And that's in the movie. That is in the movie of Obi-Wan doing this like Ahsoka Star Killer shit at Anakin. And that moment where Anakin punches Obi-Wan in the mouth, Obi-Wan knees him in the gut. Obi-Wan knees Anakin in the gut, and then Anakin has the receipt of punching Obi-Wan in the face, staggering him back into that big grappling moment. And you can't tell. You can't tell because the shot is so unbelievably tight. You know, and it's just it's a nitpick I have of that fight. I think it's incredible. The emotion of it all is what's the most important, of course. You know, it is the friendship in flames. It is the birth of Darth Vader in hellfire as what's left of Anakin Skywalker is burned away forever. You know, it is all of those things. But man, like, that is my take on it 9 times out of 10. In the theater, the pure, like, epic, cinematic nature of it all washed over me. And again, that was one of those moments where I was not thinking about all of my little, you know, issues with the film. It was just, wow, this is remarkable. Case and Connor, any takes on Battle of the Heroes before we move into the legacy of the movie and begin to wrap up? Cason.
I'm tired.
Okay.
Connor needs to go to bed. With the way
I like
it's
it.
shot and stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. It's cool. I like the first part of it a lot more than the obstacle course. So, yeah,
valid.
What were you saying, Craig?
The shots that are zoomed out and that are wide, we use CGI for when they're like super wide. But I feel like we could have done like some sort of like camera rig like up in the corner of one of our like soundstage warehouses and put them on like a green screen in the other corner and made it practical. I feel like that would have been super easy and we wouldn't have to spend money on that CGI. Could have maybe used it elsewhere, but also would have just looked better. Because like when you get to those super zoomed out shots, it literally looks like you're playing World of Warcraft and you're just watching two dudes like 300 yards away from you go at it.
That's funny. Yeah. I also like how you're rebudgeting the movie to get more Grievous in real time.
Better Grievous.
As we kind of draw into the end here, Revenge of the Sith came back to the theater, and I've seen a lot of people talking about how the biggest fans of this movie weren't old enough to see it in cinemas when it came out. Revenge of the Sith clocked in at $25 million at the US box office.
That's crazy.
And I believe it was 50 million worldwide, making it the second highest grossing re-release of a movie of all time. I think only behind either Avatar or one of the Avengers movies.
It was pretty packed when I went to see it, which is shocking for the
Same.
theater.
My Thursday night was really tepid. Sunday was a pretty big crowd.
Yeah, Thursday night for me wasn't too crazy. I'll be interested to see what it's like this week.
And that
Kinda
makes
mad.
me.
I was supposed to go see it tomorrow at 11:20 a.m. in the Cinemark in Robinson that has like it was supposed to be the D box or whatever where the seats move and stuff.
Ooh.
Yeah, supposed to go do that tomorrow, but we gotta get the kiddos.
Oh, brutal.
Fuck them kids.
Classic Connor.
Classic Anakin.
And oh boy.
Yep.
Oh man. Okay. I couldn't even get to a clip fast enough. That was ouch. Oh, there we go.
Death to all of them.
Jesus.
That's my favorite part of the clip, is that one guy. But yeah, so like that's an insane box office for this movie, and it makes me happy. It leans into kind of this double-edged sword of the prequel renaissance for me. We have so many people who are able to stand up for these films the way they deserve and have their place in Star Wars history in a way that I do think Disney kind of ran away from early. That Disney Lucasfilm kind of ran away from the prequels early on and has like slowly built up people like this shit. Okay. But to tell an anecdote I heard, not of my own, but when I was listening to Anytime with Ken and Alden, with Ken Knapsack and Alden Diaz, friends of the show, Ken was talking about how he had a really conflicted experience seeing the movie. And this gets into the memes of it all. And Bill, what you were saying earlier about people hyper quoting the movie. Ken was talking about how there was a round of applause when Anakin killed the younglings.
That's crazy.
And
I wonder who these people voted for.
It's not even that.
It's not. It's really not. It's probably not that. But like,
no. But that's what Ken said. That there is I think that at the end of the day, when he told that story, it was the day after I saw it Thursday night, or 2 days after I saw it Thursday night, and was just riding this high of like, wow, I love Revenge of the Sith again. And I'm so glad. And I was worried I would have that exact experience. And hearing Ken talk about that, it kind of brought me back to that moment of like, yeah, this movie's just always going to be weird for me. And I think I've shaken most of that weirdness. But I do think the legacy of Revenge of the Sith is one that is complicated. I think a lot of guys our age, their favorite character in all of fiction is Anakin Skywalker. And I think
for the wrong reasons.
For the wrong reasons. Or even so, I wouldn't even go so far as to say the wrong reasons, so much as they don't fully appreciate what the story is.
Mm-hmm.
That they don't fully appreciate why this is tragic. It isn't tragic because something terrible happened to Anakin. It's because Anakin is the terrible thing. It's because of the horrible choices he makes. It's because of, watching the institutions around the galaxy, crumble and fall apart and, give way to this horrific regime. And what we're left with is this weird, I don't know if it's a split down the middle or what it is, but this weird dichotomy of people who watch this movie and go, maybe Anakin won't turn this time. Maybe this horrible tragedy can be avoided. And a other group of people who go, man, Anakin got dealt a really bad hand, but he does it, but he's so fucking cool in the way that he does it. And overly sympathizing with a man who makes all the wrong choices, who is wrong every step of the way, even in the moments where he was transgressed upon and was done dirty. And I think part of that is this movie is the memes. It is the insistence that this is somehow both a Greek tragedy and the funniest film ever made, and that it has to be both at the same time, that everything is high ground, hello there, fun begins, General Kenobi, while also and laughing at the murder of children, while we're also like steeped in what quote unquote happens to Anakin and not what Anakin does. There's a part of me that almost wonders, do we not take the death of the youngling so seriously, and that's why so many people didn't buy Reva as a character? That I've been thinking about lately. Is that some weird trickle down? Is that we laugh so much at the death of the younglings, and we've kind of been desensitized to the scene. I'm rambling. How do we feel about the legacy of this film and like this weird place that it feels like it's always going to be in, even if a lot of us have been able to kind of shake that pall that hangs over it?
Probably obviously everyone here, their hope, I know their hope is that we get more into that actual literacy of it, and there's more of those people that stand up and speak up for it and sort of denounce these dumbasses that are like memify the hell out of Revenge of the Sith and really just lose what it's actually trying to tell us. But I feel like my thought is that Revenge of the Sith, unless a Nexus point happens, Revenge of the Sith for the foreseeable future is always just going to kind of be in that like middle ground of these two sides just kind of not really budging. And it's funny you mentioned the youngling scene, because I just had a friend of the show, Andrew, from my other co-host from For the Republic podcast. He's gone to the theater twice to see this movie, and people have clapped during the youngling scene.
That's
twice.
Again.
Like, this isn't chicken jockey. Like, it's like, like, clap for hello there. Clap, fucking A, clap for do it. Like, but Jesus Christ. Like, Bill, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
No, that was pretty much it. Oh, sorry.
When Revenge of the Sith came out, when you look at the last movies of the trilogy, you look at Revenge of the Sith, you look at Return of the Jedi. They are both kind of perfect counterbalances to each other, where they ultimately both end on hope. They get there in very different ways.
Yeah.
But like, that's where I like think on it. Like, that's where I end up on it. But at the same time, like, I don't know what it was about, like, just hearing. I don't want to sound like an old man, but I know I'm going to inevitably sound like an old man. Because, like, the guys that were, like, quoting it were, like, early or, like, maybe later Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and it's, like, they're the main character. We're going to, like, make this all about us, and we're going to take the wrong parts of it with zero empathy, with zero emotional intelligence. It just felt like, I don't know. And I think where we inevitably need to end up on it is that it ends on a place of hope, but like, God, we need to like fund the school. It's like, what the fuck is happening?
Open the schools.
Open the schools, because it just felt icky. Like in hearing that they ultimately, I still love this movie and I still like this movie, but like when I hear that like people are cheering for like kids to die, like as if it's a funny thing, like that's like, Jarod, you were talking about it earlier, like your parents checking in on you when you were like in the movie, like, hey, are you okay? Like, and now it's like this thing where it's, hey, like we're clapping and laughing. I don't know. Ultimately, I think Revenge of the Sith is an important movie for the saga, and it ends on a place of hope and sets up,
like Leia said in Rogue One.
There it is.
Yeah,
I'm
there it
waiting
is.
for it.
There it is.
I agree with both what Bill and Connor have said. I think really, I just want to touch on the kind of core of the resentment of at least the core of my resentment of the memification of Revenge of the Sith is the pure surface level, like memification of it. The fact that you don't look any deep into, why like you just say Darth Plagueis the Wise and clap. Like with no introspection as to why that scene is iconic. Because that is an actually good scene,
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
fucking great.
My
It's a
dad,
fantastic monologue.
who famously doesn't love the prequels, loves this movie. He's still I don't think Hayden Christensen can act guy.
Wrong.
I know.
Incredibly wrong.
I know. I agree. He's fucking great in this. And I kept
Rare
telling
hell
him the
by
whole
Ethan.
time we were watching it. But my dad, like out loud, picked up on and Scotty would have been so proud, the like fertilization, creation of life, cellular shit going on. And he literally looked at my dad and he's like, or my dad looked at me, he's like, is it just me or like the bubbles look like an egg being fertilized? And I literally looked at him, I said, yeah. And he went, what? And I was like, yeah, like that's why it looks like that. That's the point because of what Sidious is talking about. And my dad took a beat and went, that's fucking clever. And I was like, yeah.
But no, like it's the fact that these people just feed the memers of Revenge of the Sith feed off each other, but they don't reward like clever memes. They just reward playing the hits regardless of context.
Yeah, it's funny.
And once we move on from that, I think people, even they will eventually get sick of their own insular humor. And we will eventually find a renaissance of good prequel memes, probably. And then we'll repeat the cycle endlessly until we're all dead.
Don't worry. Hey, and guys, remember, we have to look forward to when Gen Alpha's a little bit older and they make shitty memes about the sequels.
That's coming. That's coming.
But no, and I mean, like, Kason, did you have any thoughts on this before I kind of like close it out here and bring us home? Because
Not
I'm
really. I
loving
kind of. No, you're good. I'm pretty much just in agreement with the panel as a whole, to be honest with you.
I mean, Bill, what you said, I think it rings so true to me is that, like, and Connor, you as well, with this like split difference of like, what do we take away from this film? And I'll always come back to the novelization, how like the book throughout is playing with this idea of like, the dragon within Anakin and this whole motif of, everything dies, Anakin Skywalker, even stars burn out. And
yeah.
And there's this
so
beautiful, good. And I was trying to find it and I couldn't find the exact quote. If anybody here has the Revenge of the Sith novel on hand, I'd appreciate somebody opening up the last fucking page.
I have the Jedi Prince books. Is that close enough?
Yeah, sure. We'll talk about Zorba the Hutt instead.
Hey, you remembered.
I did remember. If something loses me a point in epic confrontations, I memorize that shit. But it's talking about how, good will eventually almost always be overcome by the darkness, and the darkness will snuff out the stars. Even stars die, even the light burns out, but love can ignite the stars. And that's the final line of the novel. Love can ignite the stars. And, that is the core of the film. It's very similar to Andor in that, it paints in the negative space of hope. We end this movie going, we now see Luke and Leia on their like parallel paths to becoming the saviors of the galaxy. And I think that is the core takeaway, that like we will see that despite all of the horrible things Anakin Skywalker does, there is coming back from it. There is making amends, even if it is only in the eyes of the Force. And even if not everybody's willing to forgive him, he will make the right decision in the end. He will save his son, and his son will save him and the galaxy at large. And it frustrates me that such a premium is put on the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker, and it being a tragedy that people like to pretend he has no agency in. But I watch this film and all I can think about is all of the stories that this is in concert with, and how this is the flashpoint that solidifies and catalyzes so much of the theme, so many of the themes, and so many of the core ideas of this whole saga, moving backwards through the prequels and everything before the prequels and everything in and in between the originals and everything to the sequels, is like everything is right here, because this movie tells the story of what not to be and what not to do, and how even if you make all the wrong decisions, you can come back from it, but it's going to be hard. And like Bill said, it does end very hopefully. And yeah, I can say definitively I love Revenge of the Sith again, and I'm really, really happy I got to kind of fall in love with this movie again. And despite people who can't read. But
People who are blind, and I can say that because I'm blind.
I think that's all we have, you guys, on this May the 4th. Do the quick roundtable. Connor, where can the lovely people find you, sir?
I don't really use it as much, but I have Blue Sky. It's at Deba Banana. I also have Instagram at ConmanJFO. You can also find me over at For the Republic Podcast. Find us on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And then I also co-host and write questions over at Star Wars in a Galaxy Epic Confrontations. You can find all of our past, present, and future matches over at the Star Wars in a Galaxy YouTube channel and our socials at In a Galaxy Trivia. So.
There you go. Kason, where can the lovely people find you, my friend?
If I'm on the interwebs, it's as at Cray Breezy. Instagram, I still have Twitter. I do use Twitter, admittedly. I don't like Elon, but it's just hard to change stuff. I do have threads and Instagram. But yeah,
we gotta get you on the Blue Sky. We gotta get you on Blue Sky. The vibes are so much better, and the Star Wars fans are starting to say insane shit again on Blue Sky. So like,
oh hell yeah,
we're coming home. Yeah. We're coming home. The Star Wars fans are like, you know, everybody, all like most of Star Wars.
The tribe is regathering.
Star Wars Blue Sky is starting to feel like people stop taking their meds again, and it's like, oh yeah, we're back, baby. Bill.
You guys can find me on all social media: X, Blue Sky, Instagram, MySpace, any of that. You can find me at Star Wars Bill. I do want to bring it up again. If you can, please give to the Coon family. Love you, John Parker Coon. Think about you, and never forget. Love you.
Yes, absolutely. Please donate to that. Like I said, that will be linked in the description down below. Absolutely heartbreaking, and it warms my heart to see how much love the Coon family has been getting already. So please add to that push and help these lovely folks out in this incredibly trying time. And Bill, officially welcome to the team. First actual episode on Team T.
Yes, sir.
Makes my heart very happy.
Happy to be here, baby.
Hell yeah,
we gotta have fun. Gotta have.
Now you know about the Bayou Bill here. Here we go. One cheer, you can do it. All right.
That's what I've been waiting for.
And Bill's case is like, where's Bayou Bill? Michael, where can the lovely people find you and what you do, my friend?
Yeah, you can find me. Pretty much the only social I really am on right now is Blue Sky. I'm at ARS Michael on there. You can find me and my very loud cat at All Remaining Systems on YouTube. I apologize that you've been hearing him for all night. He is very vocal. He loves attention, and he wants me to go to bed right now.
I'm trying to get everybody to bed. I'm trying to go as fast as I can.
Yeah, he's very vocal about it right now, and I do apologize. But you can also find me on YouTube, All Remaining Systems. I do a show called Ionized Bastards, where I'm the GM. Jarod is actually one of my players. He plays the heroic Fabian Martell. We're about to actually wrap that show up in the coming months. We've got maybe 4 episodes left before we call it, and I was telling Jarod, like, I got so emotional thinking about it. But after that, we're going to be playing a High Republic RPG, so that'll be fun. and I'm very excited for that. Because obviously, you know, I fucking love the High Republic quite clearly by my tattoo. But yeah, very much.
I
looking
always
forward to
forget that you have that. It's so fun. I love it. It makes me happy
We
every
love Star
time I
Wars
see it.
tattoos around here.
Jared,
Where?
where?
You guys can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky at Dark Jedi 2552. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts at the nerdacademypodcast.com, or that's the website, and then wherever else. Pick your poison. Obviously, Ionized Bastards, as Michael said, we're coming to the end here. I'm trying to bribe him into adding an extra 3 episodes. I'm not ready to say goodbye to this story quite yet.
You'll never know what hit you.
Fuck off! I'll kill him.
Cool.
I've killed him twice now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
My actual reaction every time I hear Salvage's voice on the inside. But yes, fun is there. I have a match coming up in Epic Confrontations against Scotty Holiday. It was an absolute barn burner. I can't wait for you guys to see it. No spoilers here for the outcome. Have to tune in yourselves for that. Check out Pro and Noob over on the Mitch692 channel where we're going through Cowboy Bebop. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Oh, by the time you see me next, I will have new Star Wars ink as well. I'm finally getting my red lightsaber tattoo to accompany the blue one. And because I'm never beating the accusations, it's going to be Lord Starkiller's lightsaber. I'm going to have a Force Unleashed tattoo. There's not shit y'all can tell me ever. Forever. Force Unleashed right here, baby. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us. Stay tuned to the channel, Andor coverage, Thunderbolts, all that jazz. Stay tuned right here to the Nerd Academy podcast. We are honored you have joined us, and I need to get to the outro clip before I say it, and then I run out of time because I'm a bad host. May the 4th be with you.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar.